All right, guys, we are going to be talking about translations today, so let's just get right into it. So remember we learned that a translation is really just a slide. You learned that term in 7th or 8th grade, but translating is just sliding something horizontally one way or the other. And the way that we actually write the rule for a translation would be any xy becomes x plus h. Don't want to put that on there yet. I'm going to say x plus h and y plus k. So any x becomes x plus h, any y becomes y plus k. And h represents the horizontal shift. And k represents the vertical shift. All right. So the other way that we can represent this is with a vector, and we'll talk about a little bit more about that in class. But basically, a vector tells us it has magnitude and direction. And so a vector we're going to write like this, h, k. So whatever the horizontal shift is would be our h, and whatever the vertical shift is going to be our k, and we would just put it into a vector form. And so we'll practice that here in a bit. All right, so let's take a look at this rectangle. First, we're going to graph our rectangle. It has vertices at -6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -1. Make sure to label your points. That's Q. R is -3. 1, 2, 3, 1. There's R. S is 1, +1, -5. That's S. And T is -2, 1, 2, -7. All right, so we're going to go ahead and connect those. So here we have a rectangle. Now our rule says that for all xy on this shape, we're going to move the x 5 units in the positive direction and the y 7 units in the positive direction. So basically we could just count over all of our x's. We could take r and just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could do that, or we could just use math to add them and figure out what the new coordinates are going to be. So let's do that. Let's take a look at our coordinates and say, okay, -6. For every x, we're going to add 5 to it. So -6 plus 5 becomes -1. -3 plus 5 becomes 2. 1 plus 5 becomes 6. And -2 plus 5 becomes 3. So for all of our y's, we're going to add 7 to it. So when we add 7 to this, we get 6, 8, 2, and 0. See, we just added 5 to every x, add 7 to every y. Okay, so let's graph our Q prime. That's going to be, and actually we'll go ahead and graph it in red so you can see our image. -1, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to, and make sure to label it Q prime. And we're going to go 2, 8 is R prime. 6, 6, 2 is S prime, and T is 3, 0. T prime is right there. Okay, and now we just connect our points. So here's our image. Remember, this is going to be called our pre-image. And that's it. If you counted over, you would count over that you shifted S 5 units this way and 7 units that way, and we could count over with each one if you wanted to. All right, let's take a look at number 2. So we have a triangle CDE, and we're going to shift, or we're going to graph it. So we graph 2, -1 is C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4 is D. And E is 1, 2, 3. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's our triangle CDE. This is going to be our pre-image. Now for this one, let's just go ahead and use this rule to count over. We could fill in these here in a minute, but let's just use this rule to count. So this says x minus 3. So for every x, we're going to subtract 3 from that. So we're going to go over 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're graphing obviously C prime right now because we're going from C. So we're going to go negative 3 in the x direction, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go positive 8 in the y direction. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's where our new C prime is going to go. And then let's do the same for D. We're going to count over 3, 1, 2, 3, and up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's D prime. And then E. 1, 2, 3 in the negative direction, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's E prime. So then we just connect our points. And you can see we didn't change the shape of it, we didn't change the orientation of it, all we did was shift it from one spot to the other. So here's our image, there's our pre-image, and then we can fill in these points. So C is now at negative 1, 7, D is at 4, 4, and E prime is at 1, 2. And count each one of those. Or if you look, here's our numbers. We could have just said 2 minus 1 is negative 1, and negative 1 plus 8 is 7. So you can do it either way. Now, just as an aside to this one, remember I talked about writing it as a vector. So to write your coordinate rules as a vector, basically all we do is put the horizontal shift and then the vertical shift. So for this one, we shifted it in the x direction, negative 3, and in the y direction, 8. So the direction of this vector is negative 3, 8, and that just tells us to shift in the x direction, negative 3, and in the y direction, 8. So easy peasy. All right, let's take a look at this rhombus. So it has J at negative 4 and 7. Zero, 8 is K. L is negative 1, 4. And M is negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3. Right, so we connect our points. And there we have graphed a rhombus. This is our pre-image. And our image, we're just going to use these coordinate rules. And so this says for every x, y, we're going to add 2 to every x, and we're going to subtract 2 from every y. So let's just use algebra this time. So we say negative 4 plus 2 gives us negative 2. 0 plus 2 gives us 2. Negative 1 plus 2 gives us 1. And negative 5 plus 2 gives us negative 3. And then we check our y's. 7 minus 2 is 5. 8 minus 2 is 6. 4 minus 2 is 2. And 3 minus 2 is 1. So here's all of our new points. And then we just graph them. 1, 2. You can see already this one's probably going to overlap. And I better label all those J prime, K prime, L prime, and M prime. And I connect them. And there's my image. So there you go. I'll leave the other 3 for you to do on your own. If you have any questions, let me know. So let's take a look now at the next page. So for this one, it actually gives you the image and the pre-image and asks you to write a rule. So this is what I want you to do. Whenever you see this, I want you to start at the pre-image, because remember we're talking about using a vector. So this has magnitude and direction. And so we have to make sure that we start at the beginning, and our pre-image is our beginning, and then we go to our new image. So start at your pre-image, which is going to be this one right here, D, not D prime, right? D prime is our image. So now we're just going to draw a line in between D and D prime. In fact, you can even draw an arrow if you want. You can say we went from D to D prime. And if you drew an arrow from E to E prime and F to F prime, you've noticed that they're the same as the one from D to D prime. So we really only have to do 1 point on this. So now just imagine that the ground is lava and that you cannot walk in between these lines. You can't walk in this in-between area, that we have to walk only on the horizontal and vertical lines. So how would we get from D to D prime? Well, we would walk over on this line first, and then we would walk up. Well, how far did we walk in each direction? Well, let's see. First, if we walked over here, we walked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the X direction. We went over 7. And then we went up 1, 2, 3, 4. So the X, we shifted over 7, and the Y, we shifted up 4. So remember, this is positive for X, and this is positive for Y, going up and down. So our rule is going to be for every X, Y, they become X plus our horizontal shift, which we went 7 positive units for our horizontal shift, and then Y plus our vertical shift, which was a positive 4. So that's our rule. And you could figure out what each of these points is, and then figure out, you know, how far it shifted to the X and how far it shifted to the Y. This is the easiest way, is just to look at it on a graph. But if you're just given the points, then just figure out how much did the X change and then how much did the Y change. And we could check this for F and F prime, E and E prime, but it's going to be the same. So let's take a look at this other one, number 8. Okay, so again, we're going to start at M and go to M prime, or you know what, let's start at P and go to P prime, just because it's easier to see. Because like I said, every point's going to be the same. Doesn't matter which one you pick, just pick the one you like the best. But we always start at our pre-image. It's really important you start at your pre-image and go to your image, because that's the direction that we shifted. So you start at P and go to P prime. So when I take this vector, I said, well, I start at P and I go to P prime. What is my rule? Again, let's pretend like the ground is lava and we cannot walk on this actual line, that we have to walk over and then up. Okay, so how far did we walk over? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we walked 4, but we walked this way, which is -4. Right? That's -4 in the X direction. And then we walked up 1, 2, and this way is positive for Y, so that's a +2. So our rule would be X for every X, Y, they become X minus 4 and Y plus 2. Now we could write a vector for this one. Gives our horizontal shift and then our vertical shift, just like that. Either one is fine. But this is the rule. This is when we're talking about the algebraic rule. We're going to write it like that. All right, the last ones deal with reflection and then translation. So I'm going to work on these in a separate video and we will talk about them later. So I want you to finish your notes through number 8 for today.